This is a very special moment. This is a day that I have been waiting for. I am in conversation with a warrior. We are going to speak to a legend, Colonel Mani Gahatraj. And in true Assam Regiment style, I'm going to greet him as Tagra Raho, sir.
Tagra Raho, Yashika.
This is a greeting used by Assam Regiment whenever we meet anyone. It is a blessing that stay fit, stay robust, stay strong. And this is exactly the wish that has kept you fighting for it all through your life.
That's right.
Sir, as we are celebrating the Golden Jubilee of 1971 war, the iconic Battle of Chhamb is part of history. It is one of the most fiercest battle fought in the Western Front. And Colonel Gahatraj, that time a young Second Lieutenant Gahatraj, sir?
Yes, that's right.
Second Lieutenant Gahatraj was the first casualty in Battle of Chhamb 1971 war. And we are going to ask, sir, please recount that moment. लड़ाई जब छिड़ी, वो क्या मंजर था? How was that day? What were you doing? What was your responsibility? And also, as we progress with the answer, I want to know what was that moment when you became that first casualty or the first person to get injured in 1971 Battle of Chhamb?
Well, Yashika, I'm thankful to you for bringing this out and giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much. Coming down to the point, during the 1971 war, on 3rd of December, I was a MTO come battalion's mine laying officer. Why mine laying officer? That's a different story, I'll tell you. On 3rd afternoon at about 3:30, I received a call from the battalion adjutant to come forward to the battalion area in a place called Barsala and start laying mines because the enemy attack was imminent. And that's how I reached there at about 5:30 in a place called Barsala where our battalion was deployed. And my mine laying party was already there. And we started laying mines immediately. And we laid the first strip, we laid the second strip. It's about 200 meters long, another strip of 200 meters long. And it takes time because you got to put anti-tank mines, you got to put anti-personnel mine, you got to put fragmentation mine. So when we were doing all this, it was already dark, we didn't even realize. So after we finished the second strip and we were on the third one, suddenly the boom, boom, boom started. And I looked up and it was like a Diwali. So my first expression, my first reaction was, wow, the war has started, thank God.
That is so फौजी. मुझे पक्का है कि फौजी कभी लड़ाई हो ये कभी विश नहीं करता, लेकिन अगर लड़ना इमिनेंट हो और अगर लड़ना जरूरी हो तो then you are waiting and rearing to go there and finish off the enemy. I'm sure that must have been your...
That exactly was the case because throughout 1971 the war was imminent. We knew something was happening in Bangladesh, and so we were waiting to go in to the Pakistan. And suddenly on the it's all about the offensive action. We got to go in. Even the chief of the army staff, General Mani Gahatraj, came. He said, "Gentlemen, we're going in, but I won't tell you when because you guys will go back and tell your wives. So I will tell you later. But definitely we're going in. We're going in." That's what he said. So we were all raring to go, and then the waiting becomes a little too long, little too boring, too many things happening. So we were waiting, what the hell, when will the war start? So when this boom, boom, boom started, I said, wow, thank God, the war started. We were waiting for this. That's how it was.
And then there was this moment when you got hit and became the first casualty of 5 Assam in Battle of Chhamb. Please recount that moment for us.
Yeah, when the bombardment started, it was artillery shelling. As we came later, the enemy, Pakistan, had opened with almost about 200 fire guns to pound us. And so the shells were landing everywhere. So we stopped laying the mines we went back into our defenses. I know the defenses were there. I was with the boys in the defenses, and some of the boys, very, very young soldiers, they thought the enemy was coming. They started firing, so I told them, stop firing, don't stop. We'll tell you when to fire. Hold on your fire. You got to preserve the ammunition. So all that was happening. I was, moving from one bunker to another, and suddenly I felt a force hitting me on my right side of the whole body.
Okay.
So I was kind of pushed back, but I didn't fall. And suddenly I found my whole right side numb.
Okay.
So I knew that something has happened. So I just held my neck and I found something wet.
Okay.
And I explored. There's no pain. It was just kind of a numbness. I just explored and I found a hole here. So I put my finger in the hole. Well, there was a hole, all right. And the blood was coming out. So my Holdar was there, Holdar Kabzona. He said, who was also my mind guru. He said, oh, saab ko to guli lag gaya, morega na kya? So
morega nahi kya?
Morega nahi. Morega to nahi, he said. So I said, okay. He took me, he lay me down on the bunker and put a bandage, shell dressing, and then did me up, and he sent two boys to take me to the battalion headquarters, RAP, that is Regimental Aid Post,
okay.
where there was a very, very young and a new doctor, Dr. Captain B.N. Gyani. So he looked at me. I was on the stretcher, and then it was his first battle casualty. It's his first casualty of his life. So he was a little nervous, I think. And then he looked at me, and then he was sweating and all that because the bombardment was falling all over. So I said, Doc, you're supposed to give me morphine. So why didn't you give me morphine? He said, oh, yeah. Then he gave me morphine. And then I was to be carried from that stretcher near the battalion headquarters to the RAP post, Regimental Aid Post. It was about 200 meters and the bombardment was going on. So there was a JAT nursing assistant. Okay. Who just carried me on his back and ran through the bombardment and took me to the RAP shelter. There's a bunker shelter, and they lay me there. They gave me more bandages and all that, and then a vehicle was brought. I being the first casualty, so everything was ready. This ambulance was ready. They put me in the ambulance, and through the bombardment and shelling all over, that ambulance took me, along with this nursing assistant Jat. I'll never forget him, a very robust Jat. He took me right up to the ADS and he handed over me to the ADS doctor. There in the ADS, they looked at me, they looked at the wound. I was well bandaged, there's nothing. So they were waiting to evacuate me further back. So I heard the doctor saying, ask the brigade major of the, can we evacuate the casualties now? Can we take this officer back to the rear for his treatment? So some words came, and then they put me in another ambulance, and we drove. As we drove, we crossed the Mandiala bridge. While crossing the Mandiala, the vehicle slowed down and it stopped, and there was a whole lot of commotion going on there. And then when I peeped out, I was in my senses. When I peeped out, there were a whole lot of civilians. They were, running away from the battlefield because the shelling they're evacuating. They're just going away. They were, they had all their bullock carts and their ponies, and they were
These were
just
the
civilians who were in the villages, border area. Okay. And because after the shelling, because the earlier plan was that we go in so the civilians need not go back. But when the shelling started, they had to go. So they fell back, and they were in kind of a panic, and they were, the children and women, and, they were, so they had blocked the whole bridge. So the driver, was able to slowly drive out, and then finally we reached the ADS in the early hours of the morning. Okay. And from the ADS, early morning at about 8 o'clock, I was flown by helicopter to Udhampur base hospital, and that's where my treatment. So one thing about that treatment is that immediately I was wheeled into the X-ray room, and they found something here, and I was given a morphine or whatever, and then I became unconscious. And the next day morning, I opened my eyes. That's very interesting. When I opened my eyes, I saw. And it was like I didn't know whether I was dead or alive. I saw an angel-like figure, very, very beautiful, looking down at me. She, with her hand, she felt my head and said, "How are you feeling?" And I looked at her and I said, "Wow, what an angel! Where am I?" Then it turned out that she was a nursing officer with a captain's rank. After that, I tried my best to find her, but never found her ever. So that was the story. I've also written about it. The angel I never met.
Oh.
That's it.
Quite interesting. So from angel, I would like to ask another thing. आपने अभी बात करते करते एक बड़ा interesting word बोला, mind guru.
हाँ.
So even in battle zones, you were inspired by someone. There must have been people who must have guided you throughout your career. पर आपने जो mind guru बोला, उनके बारे में बताइए.
ऐसा है कि when I joined the battalion as a second lieutenant, one has done training in IMA, one has done training in the infantry school, young officers course and all. But when you come to the battalion, there are so many things you don't know. And I knew nothing about the mines, to be very honest.
Like they always tell us that the actual training begins in the unit only.
Begins in the unit. So there was a mine laying competition for the division, sometimes within the month of May, June in 1971. I guess now, as you look back, it was like a preparation for war. You know, there was a mine laying competition, 9 battalions were taking part, and my battalion, 5 Assam, was, chose me. The commanding officer, Colonel Mani, told me that, Mani, you will be the mine laying officer in charge mine laying for this competition. I said, right, sir, will be done. Tagra Raho. But I knew nothing about mines, and we started training for mines under the guidance. The teacher was Havaldar Kabzona Lushai. I'll never forget him.
Havaldar Kabzona
Lushai from Aizawl, Mizoram.
Okay.
He was so expert in mines, the nuts and bolts of every mine, and within a week he taught me, and I knew a lot about mines. And consequently, after a month, we faced that competition, DIV championship competition, and there was a lot of work to be done by the officer in charge mine laying, like preparing the minefield chart, preparing the plan, counting the mines and everything. So we had that competition, and fortunately, I would say, with the guidance of this Havaldar Kabzona Lusai, we stood first.
This is so brilliant that learning, if we are open to learning, then learning is everywhere.
Yes.
And
right.
Havaldar Kabzona has certainly been a great guru for you.
Yeah.
What he taught you there in the mine laying competition actually proved so helpful in the battle zone.
In the battle zone for the whole battalion.
For the whole battalion and for that front.
Yeah.
And in this great battle of Chhamb, Havaldar Kabzona has played a huge role.
Yes, he has.
In his teaching.
After we won the competition, and there was the celebration like a barakhana and all that in the battalion, and then the commanding officer Colonel Mani told me, "You are now the officer in charge mine laying of the battalion. Besides your normal work as an MTO, I was the MTO. Besides the MTO, you will also be the dual work. Now, what is called today is the multitasking. That officer in charge mine laying, and therefore, when we were deployed in the first option of defenses in Danjok, we were laying mines day and night for almost 2 weeks. And but then we had to leave that and go forward. When we went forward and occupied the mine base and the form base, I was told to lay mine in certain areas, but not in front of the 2 companies of Assam, that is .951 Charlie Company and Barsala Bravo Company. In front of these 2 companies, not to lay mines, because this was the gap through which our attack was supposed to go.
Yes.
And then, when in the 11th hour, we were told that the attack, we have to go defensive, and you start laying mines. And this little mine came from the brigade headquarters, and that's what we started laying right in front of that Barsala company. And this is when the bombardment started,
Started.
and this is how I got injured.
When you were laying the mines.
I was laying the
Laying
mines.
the mines.
Yeah.
So tell me, you were groomed in battle zone, it seems to me. From a boy,
yeah.
you became a man there.
Yeah.
You know, you learn your trade, you learn your work. But nothing happens out of vacuum. There must have been a background to it. Were you always like this? Did you face some kind of action earlier?
Oh yes, if we go back, that was 1971. If we go back to 1965 war, I joined the army in the 1963, immediately after finishing the school as a sepoy in the EME. I was a vehicle electrician. And when 65 war started, we were in Barmer area, and the infantry had gone in, and they captured, I still remember, they had captured a village, Pakistani village, opposite Barmer, a place called Dali. And that's where that was captured by First Garhwal. They moved on, then the 17 Madras came and occupied that, and we were going to supply. I was in a convoy looking after the vehicle that was supplying the food and ammunition and supplies to 17 Madras in village Dali. Okay. But as the convoy went in, we got into a Pakistani ambush.
Oh.
Yeah, and ironically, when we were coming back, we were just, sepoys from the EME. The one captain came from somewhere with a 1 ton and an RCL jeep, and he said, "Who knows the enemy position?" So, like a fool's rush, where angels fear to tread, I said, "I know where the enemy is." So I volunteered. I got into the car. He got me into his jeep. So I said, I showed him the route. That's the route. But after some time, as luck would have it, he stopped the jeep. He says कि इस इधर का ये जीप में जगह नहीं है, अब तुम पीछे वाला 1 ton में बैठो. Okay. So I went into the 1 ton and sat, and then we started driving. And within 2 minutes, the jeep in which I was traveling with that captain was blown into pieces by the Pakistani fire. It was a tank fire from Pakistan. It just blew up. And when that happened, we knew that it was a ambush, and we got out of the 1 ton. And then we withdrew because we had to withdraw back, and it was almost like a movie that they were fighting at us, and then we were jumping under the rocks, and we were going behind the tree, and we crossed the hillock, and we got down. I had a Jat friend who was a driver. I was a mechanic, and we walked back, and this Jat found a camel. He steered the camel, and we got into the camel, and then we went back. So it was like going into the mouth of the, the mouth of the dragon, and then coming back. It was just luck. So what I would say that I suppose I'm just blessed and lucky that I have been right into the mouth of the, mouth of the death twice. And still I'm here. Like I tell my boys, गुली लगा है, हम मोरा भी नहीं है. अभी तक जिंदा है, पेंशन भी खाता है और सब चीज करता है. But in this, what I say is, what I tell my boys is that in my own regimental Hindi is that जो भी लड़ाई में आदमी मरता है, वो उसका नाम में गुली लिखा हुआ होता है. लेकिन जो गुली हमको इधर मारा है, वो गोली में मेरा नाम तो था, लेकिन उसका स्पेलिंग गलत था, इसलिए हम मरा नहीं है.
और जो 1965 में जो बॉम्ब आया
वो भी मेरे नाम में नहीं था,
वो भी आपके नाम में नहीं था.
So that's what I explain to my boys. That's how I
this is the attitude.
Yeah.
This is the attitude, and इसके लिए आपको सल्यूट है.
Thank you so much.
और तगड़ा रहो का जो ग्रीटिंग है, एक चीज और पूछूंगी बिफोर वी क्लोज. आपके कैप में दाव लगा है. प्लीज टेल अस समथिंग अबाउट दाव. व्हाट इज दाव फॉर एन असम रेजिमेंट?
दाव, for the, I think, universal knowledge, the Dao to the northeast, and the Assam Regiment is what the khukri is for the Gurkhas.
Yes, sir.
It is a weapon for the hand-to-hand battle, and there have been instances where your rifle, your ammunition is finished, and your rifle and the guns are useless. And you take out your dao and charge the enemy, and chop his head off. And that's what the dao
With
is
the
meant
war
for.
cry, Rhino
With the war
charge.
cry, Rhino charge. That's why I always carry this dao here on my.
It
Thank you,
has
sir.
been absolute pleasure, and I am so filled up with the energy. It is my great pleasure to be speaking to you today, learning the story firsthand, and I'm sure everyone who's listening will get bitten by this bug of never say die, never say it's over. क्योंकि गोली लग सकती है, पर अगर गोली पे आपका नाम नहीं लिखा या आपके नाम की स्पेलिंग गलत है, तो भी वो गोली आपका कुछ नहीं कर सकती.
आप मरेगा नहीं, आप जिंदा ही रहे. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Very
And
kind of
once,
you. I appreciate
Tagra
it.
Raho.
Tagra Raho.
Tagra Raho.
Tagra Raho.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.